Hey everybody, Z Garcia here. Today we're going to be taking up arms against the other animals nearby and trying to get rid of all the cards in our hand in Animal Tattica. In this game, every player is going to have a deck of cards, and you represent a group of animals. You can be the bears, the cats, the dogs, or the penguins. And you are trying to get rid of all the cards in your hand. You begin with a certain amount, you have a few left over as your own deck, and you're going to play sets to the table and force the other players to respond to that set or pass if they cannot overpower your play. And if they have to pass, they're going to draw some cards. You play a new set. Try to run out your hand. It's very simple. It's what we call a shedding game or a ladder climbing game, that sort of thing. So this is another one in a genre, and it's a very populated genre. There's a lot of card games that use this sort of idea. Sort of similar to trick-taking, but not quite the same thing. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at it. We'll come on back after that. I'll tell you what I think of it. So here's what you're getting in the box. You are going to get 4 different groups of characters, the different kinds of animals, with 1 card that lets you know what distribution of cards are in that faction. And you're also going to get these special cards that players will be allowed to draw from. And so to set up the game, I'll just go ahead and take a look at a game with 2 people. Everybody selects 1 faction. So one of the 2 players is going to be the penguins, and I'll say the other player is going to be the bears. And we'll remove these, set them aside for now. Each player gets their own card, and they are going to shuffle up their own deck and draw from these 16 cards 10 into their hand. And the other 6 are going to be a reinforcement deck that they'll set aside. And so I would do the same thing over here and shuffle up the deck and draw my 10, set aside the rest. All right, so those 6 are going to be the ones set aside, and the 10 you've got are your hand. Besides that, you also shuffle up the special ones. Each player draws 3, and from those 3, you keep 1. You can look at them, of course. You keep 1. I'm not going to worry about that right now. And the other ones get shuffled back in. Now you're good to go. So what you're attempting to do in the game is get rid of all the cards in your hand. And if you are the first player to do so in a 2-player game, then you're done and you are the winner of the game. In the game, you are going to be playing these cards in order to play sets, and you are hoping to make your opponent not have the ability to follow up that set with a better one from their own hand. Now again, as these cards show you, there are different kinds of cards and in varying quantities in your hand. So for example, this cute little penguin wizard there, he's got a strength of 3, and I have 4 copies of this card in my deck. And let's say I'm the start player, okay? So I'm going to play a set to the table. So I might play, for example, let's say I play 2 3s to begin. Now my opponent has a couple of different choices. They can pass because they are forced to or because they choose to, at which point they are going to draw 2 more cards from their hand, and now I would wipe everything away from the center of the table and play a brand new set. Once they've run out of cards to draw from, either player, then every time you have to pass, or you choose to pass, instead you'll draw 1 from the special deck here. And again, you're trying to get rid of your whole hand, so hopefully you don't have to do that too much. Second choice they have is they can play to the table, something better than what I've already played. And so they'll throw the ball back in my court, and now it'll be up to me to respond to that play from them. Now, what they can play is one of 2 things, okay? So I played 2 3s here. So they can do one of 2 things. They can play 2 cards that are numerically better. So, for example, 2 8s. That's better. And now when it comes back to me, I have to play 2 cards that are better than 8s, which I don't have in my deck, but we'll get to that. Now, the other option is play more cards, so say more than 2, all of the same number still, that add up to my total push. So in this case, 3 2s would be better than 2 3s. And that's called a surrounding move. They are surrounding me because it's simply more characters. At which point I would have to respond with 3 cards that are stronger or a surrounding move of my own. So basically, you can never play a set of cards that is fewer than the ones that are already played on the table from someone, all right? So that's what I did. I played my 2 3s. My opponent has those 2 8s. I'll play those 2 8s. It comes back around to me, and I would have to, if I want to play a bigger group, a surrounding group, they have to add up to 16. So as you can see in my hand here, if I had 4 4s, I could do that. But there are not 4 4s in this deck. There are 3, and I have them all. That's not going to do it. And then I have a lot of 2s, but I would need to play 8 of them. And so I've got, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And then I have a special card over here, which actually counts as 2 different 2s. But that's still not enough, right? I needed 8 of those. So instead, I will have to back off. And so I will pass. My opponent discards these. I discard these. I draw 2 cards. And it is their turn to launch and attack. Some players are also going to have, pretty much all the decks, have 1 king as well. This is the single highest card, but you can also play it with something else to count as 1 of that. So this attack would be 2 6s, for example. And so that's basically it. My opponent now could play, you know, they'll play a single 12, let's say. And now I could respond to that with 3 4s. It's a surrounding attack which adds up to 12. And it goes back to them. And they could play, they would have to play 3 6s or 3 8s or more cards that add up to that. And it does not look like they have it, so they'll have to back off. So I discard this, they discard that. I'm the one who made the push, so they're going to have to draw a couple of cards, and I begin the new fight. That's basically it. And again, you go until someone's hand is out, they're the winner. The special cards are a couple of different things. You've already seen the 2 2s. There is an 8 in here, which is called the Resurrecting 8, I think they call it, the Angel 8. You can play it as an 8, or you can discard it and take one of your own cards back from the discard pile. Not one of the specials, one of your own. You take it back, and you discard something else from your hand. So it lets you switch one out from your hand and your discard. You've got here this special one, which is very flexible. It's a card that can be counted as either a 3, a 6, or a 4. So 3, 4, 6. You can choose what it is when you play it. And then you've got a 12, which is just very strong. No special power, it's just a 12. And that's basically the game. So, again, as you saw over here, the distributions are different for some, for all the different groups of characters. Some of them being very strong, like the bears, or the cats over here, which actually have 2 crowns, which is quite flexible. And then the penguins, which have a lot of smaller cards, ideally making them good at surrounding the opponent if they've got the cards in hand. So that should give you an idea of the concept at play here. But let's go back up top and let me tell you what I think of it. Alright, so there it is. This is a very cute game that I had very high hopes for, but unfortunately I was rather disappointed by the gameplay of it itself. There's a lot of things I do like in this package, and so you're going to see a lot of positives here, but overall, this is a negative review from me. I just did not enjoy it, and I didn't get any fun out of the experience playing this game. So here we go. Things I like, alright? Theme, it's cute. It's got different little critters. I enjoy the theme. I think it's attractive. And then the aesthetics on top of that are superb. The illustrations are perhaps, you know, an acquired taste. But the card quality is fantastic, you know, unquestionably. And I do like the look of the cards. I do like the artwork myself. So I have no issues with the game, with the way the game looks. There's very little iconography, but what is there is good. So I enjoy the look. The game length is solid. It's a very short game, actually, and they recommend you play it best out of 3, which I would say you should do, you know. That's the way to go. A single hand is very, very short. And the ease of play is pretty high as well. I think the game is clean, it's well designed, and the one clever twist, that idea of surrounding, while it might take a couple of hands maybe to wrap your head around it, it's clever and it's easy to play. So the things I did not like are 2 things, okay? Replayability, that gets a negative from me, and tactics, that gets strategy, luck, all those things. That gets a negative from me. So replayability, let's talk about that a little bit. There are 4 decks in here, but unfortunately, once you have played one of them, The deck itself, the construction of that deck, what that deck is good at, will inform you how to play that deck. So by its very design, the game kind of holds your hand and tells you not just what you should do and should not do, but also what you can do, right? So if you are playing the Penguins, for example, what you can do just about every time, if anything, is surround your opponent. That's the one thing that deck is good at. And if you don't draw enough of your twos, of which you have a lot, then you're not going to be able to respond, you know? And I had several games of the Bears versus the Penguins in which it was just a blowout. You know, the Penguins got destroyed because they didn't have enough of their twos, you know? And so you can tell how to pilot each deck very plainly and obviously. And I think the replayability suffers because of that. I like that there are 4 factions in there, but they're so very obvious to play. And then lastly, like I said, tactics and strategy and all that, the moves are just very apparent what you should do, and it feels unsatisfactory for a ladder climbing game, where I want dramatic reversals of fortune. Now, these games are not the most revolutionary games, tactically speaking. You will have a couple of different choices, maybe, you know, and that's it. But a game like The Great Moody, which came out in the 90s, is a game that does everything this one does without complications, but also with a bigger hand size, with more sort of drama to it, with the ability to come back from something, with the ability to sort of forge out your own path in the game and maybe go for long shots and maybe try something and see if it sticks, that sort of thing. There's not a whole lot of that in this game. You kind of do what your hand lets you do. Just like the idea of, you know, when you take 3 special cards at the beginning and keep one. The one you keep is probably the one that your deck is good at. Like, if you are playing Penguins, 99% of the time, if you get a double 2 card, you're keeping that. Because that's what you're good at. You need a whole lot of those 2 cards to surround a big play, you know? If somebody plays 2 8s against you, you're probably done unless you can play a whole lot of those 2s. So that's the problem, you know, that's what I thought. And I just found the game, the hands were suddenly over. You know, you play, sometimes a single hand is over in 3 leads. Boom, 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 my hand's out, you know, you're done. You couldn't respond. And it just felt unsatisfactory. I really wanted to like this game. I went into it with high hopes, you know, it looked good. It sounded interesting from the read. But unfortunately, the play of it left me wanting. I did not find a lot of fun here, unfortunately. So, if you love ladder climbing games and this sounds like an interesting twist to you, maybe you'll like it, you know? But for me, there are other games in the genre that just do this kind of thing with more gusto than this one. And the charm here, the cutesy art and theme, aren't enough to overcome those issues I had with the gameplay. So there you go. That's Animale Tattica. That's it for me, everybody. Thanks for checking this out with me. I appreciate it. I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com.